Welcome back to Bay Area Focus. We are so excited to have senior scientist Paul Doherty from the Exploratorium at our table today. He is an avid adventurer and strives to make science interesting, relevant, and of course fun. And he has a new unique book. It's called And Then You're Dead: What Really Happens If You Get Swallowed by a Whale, Are Shot from a Cannon, or Go Barreling Over Niagara. Love that title. Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so you have some really interesting stories in this book, and it's really about death.
It is.
How people die, right?
It is. It's the science behind the world's most interesting ways to die.
Yeah. So where did you get your ideas? Because some of the stories involve, like there was one story I saw about an elevator. What happens in an elevator that can kill you?
That's right. Well, I interviewed all my friends. I have lots of science-literate friends, and I asked, what are the most interesting ways to die that you can think of? What worries you? And they said, well, I always worry when I'm in an elevator. So in New York, a B-45 bomber flew into the side of a high-rise building, and it cut the cable on an elevator and the emergency cable as well. And Betty Lou Oliver was an elevator operator. Remember the old days when there were elevator operators? So she was in the elevator, it cut the cable, the elevator fell 79 stories to the bottom. And she did the right thing. She got on the floor of the elevator. That's what you do if you're in an elevator with a cut cable. Get on the floor, and as the elevator fell, it compressed the air underneath it, which slowed down the descent. And it made it so when it impacted the bottom, she actually survived.
Which is amazing. Okay, so you get all of these ideas for the stories to tell. Where do you get all the answers?
Well, I'm a physics professor, and I actually have come near death on some of these experiences myself, like walking around the rim of an erupting volcano. And so I had some personal experience and managed to survive. But also, I'm a researcher. So I could go out in the world and do research on the science behind these. And since I'm a physics professor, I could sort out what rang true for physics and what was wrong. Hard to believe, but there's some wrong answers out there on the internet.
Okay, so I want to go over some of the stories in the book while we have you here. Here's one question. So something I've always wondered about. What happens when a window gets blown out of an airplane?
Yeah, so you're in comfort on the inside of the airplane because the air inside is pressurized so you can breathe. But outside, the air outside is very low pressure. So when that window blows out, the air inside the plane rushes out. And all the air in your body rushes out as well. And that makes a cloud in the cold, expanded air. And people think, oh, a bomb has gone off. Right. Because it seems like that. But actually, it hasn't. And then the air clears. It's rushing out the window. If you're in the window seat that the window popped out of, the wind is going 300 miles an hour out that window. So it pulls you out of your seatbelt, but luckily the windows are designed that you will not fit through. So you become the cork in the bottle that sort of slows down the air leaving and saves the rest of the people.
So what you're saying, sit in the aisle seat.
Sit in the aisle seat. The wind there is much less. It's like when you pull the plug in a bathtub. Near the plug, it's really flowing down, but out there in the back of the tub, it's just moving a little.
See, and I always thought the window seat was the best seat on the plane. All right, what happens if you step outside a submarine in the deep ocean?
Oh, the deep ocean, the pressure of the water there is so great. You get squeezed immediately. But good news is the blood inside of you is incompressible. Nothing happens to that. But the air spaces are crushed out of existence. Your skull crushes down because you do have holes in your head. And then they're gone, and your lungs get crushed. That means that you're so dense you don't float to the surface. You just die there on the bottom of the ocean. But the good news is you're colonized by an amazing organism called the bone-eating snot flower that eats your bones and returns you to the environment.
It's interesting you call that good news. Okay, so we have this beautiful, very tall Salesforce Tower now in San Francisco. What happens if you drop a penny off of the roof, off of the top?
You'd like to think that that penny would come down at such high velocity it would just burn a hole right through you. But the penny tumbles on the way down. It slows down to what we call a terminal velocity of 25 miles an hour. And I like to thank Adam Savage, our local science researcher, who actually made a gun that shot pennies at 25 miles an hour and had it shot at his rear end. And it just sort of bounced off and he went, ouch. And that's what would happen. So the penny is not going to hurt you, thank goodness.
Okay, that is good to know. Do we really need a brain?
Yeah, well, actually, brains are overrated, although our brain is doing the judgment, and so it's kind of prejudiced. But indeed, a researcher found one of his students who had an extra-large head. And when they looked inside with an MRI, they found that 95% of his head was full of liquid, not brain.
Oh.
And yet he had an IQ of 126.
Okay, there you go. Thanks so much for sharing your stories and your book. And to find out what Paul's up to next, just log on to exo.net/Paul D. That's it for our show this week, but we will be back with more Bay Area Focus next week. Have a great day.